And today we're going to do the review on the Vanguard Creed. Now, we covered this gun when it first got released at the 2008 NPPL San Diego. There were a lot of products that came out at that event. You know, Ninja Paintball came out at that time. The Alien Independence came out. And obviously this was probably one of the most talked about, paintball products that had come out at the 2008 NPPL San Diego was the Vanguard Creed. Now, kind of an odd release with the Vanguard Creed. A lot of kind of bad things happened all at the same time when they released the gun. The first generation of guns that they had were having issues right out of the box from leaking poppets and stuff like that. Vanguard, unfortunately, didn't have a repair facility here in the U.S., and from them trying to launch the guns and them trying to get the guns out into the market, kind of pissed a lot of dealers off with, guns that were showing up that weren't working out of the box. Finally, I think we're at the point right now where now they have the second generation. I believe they fixed the poppets, they fixed a lot of the problems that the first generation guns had. And now we're on the second generation of guns, and now they finally got a gun that's working great. They're starting to iron out some of the bugs to it, and then they sold the whole thing to Key Action Sports. So, definitely kind of a weird release in that the first gun that comes out has issues. They fix all of those. They come out with the second generation. That's working great. Everything's going on. And they sold the whole line. They sold the whole line to Key Action Sports. But, with that said, we did have a first generation that we had was the silver one. It was the one that I actually did the unboxing video on back a few months ago. That gun had, some minor issues with it, just some leaks here, little issues there. And after sending it out to Vanguard out in England, we got them back and the gun shot great. Then we got a second generation one, which is what they were selling now. And we restarted the review on the gun based off the second generation one. So if you have a first generation one, you get in touch with Vanguard, they'll put all the new parts in it. If you have a second generation one, you're okay. So let's go ahead and take it apart. Now, we've already done the unboxing on the Creed. You guys know that the packaging on the Vanguard Creed, it's almost like you're buying like a $900 pair of shoes. I mean, you've got, a leather bound case here, really top of the line when it comes to packaging. You got multiple chargers, you've got can openers, you've got a really nice little set of Allen keys. Let's go ahead and open this up. It's got a nice lanyard, it comes with lube. Of course, everybody knows the famous bottle opener. So we'll just go through and open up these boxes so we can see what's inside here. And let's get this one out. And obviously you see it's got a nice little charger. And actually, the portable charger that it comes with works really well. You're not going to get a 100% full charge on this, at least I didn't, but you will at least get it up to about 75%. We did leave it on for, the gun stayed on for like 2 weeks, it seemed like, and finally drained the battery all the way down, and then we charged it up with this, and after about 3 or 4 hours, it was charged up to about 75%, which per what they say about the rechargeable battery, you should still get about 75,000 shots, more than enough to get you through a tournament. But the portable charger does work. Uses two AA batteries. It's got a little light. It's got a USB connector. I mean, it's just, the packaging on this gun is just out of this world in terms of all the little goodies and little gadgets that you get. Now let's go ahead and take this out. Now this is what's really cool is the Allen key set that it comes with actually is a really nice anodized Allen key set. It's got like a real shiny finish to it. Really nice little Allen key set. You're definitely not going to get these mixed up with your other Allen keys that you have for your other guns. You're just not going to find any other gold ones. Comes with a really nice barrel sock and has some extra O-rings. And a little parts repair kit inside of the barrel sock. Really nice leather barrel sock. And you get 3 different barrels with the Vanguard Creed. You're going to get a 689 14-inch Lucky barrel. You're going to get a 693 14-inch Lucky barrel. And you're going to get a 693 16-inch Lucky barrel. So for the purposes of this video, we're going to just use the 689 14-inch Lucky Barrel. So let's go ahead and screw this onto the gun. Now, Lucky Barrels are probably the most lightweight aluminum barrels. Kitty absolutely loves these barrels. You know, the Lucky Barrels, I mean, are pretty hard to find here in the U.S., but they're definitely nice and lightweight. You got to be kind of careful with them. Willie actually on one of the games got his caught in the net, and when he spun off the board to lane, he actually snapped the barrel right off. Now, I mean, you know, when it happened, obviously you got it caught in the net. It's going to break in, you know, it's going to break the barrel, but we sent it off to Vanguard and they replaced it. So the customer service that we have with them was really nice. Fit and feel of the gun feels good when you're shooting it. One of the major issues that I'm having with the gun right now is the membrane pad that's on the back of these. It's just not, I mean, I don't like the fact that the USB charging port is on the very back of this gun. The membrane pads that are on here, after a little while with sweaty hands, and especially with the humidity here in the US, we started to see some of the membrane pads started to peel up a little bit. It's probably a pretty easy fix. I'm sure they're going to, you know, as Key gets their hands on this gun, they're going to revise it and it's going to get better and better. But the membrane pad was a major issue that I had with this. We did rip the first one out of the first generation one. They changed the glue. The second generation one has been working pretty well, but how the USB charger is, this little flap right here is very easy to get ripped out of the gun. If it's not closed all the way and you put your hand on here, you're going to rip it right off, which is going to expose your USB charging port to all the dirt and the grime and stuff like that. So I did have an issue with that. The OLED board is great. The you know, multicolor's got a nice little OLED board, nice little trigger frame on it. It's got an integrated regulator, very easy to take apart, very, very similar to an Ego, very similar to an Intimidator, very similar to a Vice. So what we're going to do here is, let's go ahead and get the camera in a little bit closer. We're going to take the gun apart and we'll weigh it, take the gun, low pressure reg, high pressure reg, pop it out, take the bolt out, and then we'll do is go out and do an efficiency test and come in for a conclusion. All right, let's start taking this gun apart. Obviously the first thing to do is go ahead and remove the barrel. And, you know, just to be prudent, you always want to make sure that there's no air in the gun. So we're pushing forward on the poppet, no air in the gun. Now the first thing we'll do is, let's go ahead and start taking apart the low pressure regulator. Low pressure regulator is very easy. You just basically unscrew the front cap and out will come a spring, and inside there is the piston. Get yourself a pair of needle nose pliers. Whoops. And pop out the piston. There we go. And that's about it for the low pressure regulator. So you just go ahead and wipe this down with a clean rag. Take your favorite lubricant. Doesn't really matter which one. In this case, we're just going to use some Hater Marmalade. Been really liking this stuff. Hater Marmalade's good stuff. So put the piston back in. Put in your spring. And now if it's kind of hard for you to screw in the low pressure regulator cap, you can back that out a little bit, but should be able to screw in with no problem at all. There we go. So you just took apart the low pressure regulator. Now you may have to reset your setting on here when you get over to the chronograph. Basically what I like to do is just, you want this to feel a little bit spongy. You know, your low pressure regulator doesn't have to be cranked up that high, but basically get your gun to chrono at about 300 feet per second. And then start backing out the low pressure regulator until you start getting drop off, then put it in about a turn and you should be good to go. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take apart the high pressure regulator. Now you've got two screws, or two Allen key screws inside of the high pressure regulator. You have the velocity adjustment screw, and then you have a larger nut that actually holds the whole housing in. It's on the high pressure regulator is basically like a cartridge. There we go. Now the high pressure regulator, it's got two main parts. It's got the velocity adjustment screw through the bottom, and it's got the piston. To get the piston out, what I'm using is just a pair of needle nose pliers. Just kind of stick it in, and out comes the piston. Or you can smack it against the table and it'll pop out. And now what you just do is basically just unscrew the velocity adjustment screw, And then you're just going to have to grab it with your fingernails and then pull it out. And that's it. Now you do have a shim stack here. And basically you want your first shim on the shim stack to be cupping against the top of the piston. And then the rest of them are just going to go in there, you know, facing each other. So like that. So you want your first shim to be facing the piston, and then the rest of the shims are just going to go in like this. So you're going to have one facing the piston, like that, and then you're going to have three more sets of shims that are going to be facing each other like that. And that's the proper order for your shim stack. Then you just basically clean that, make sure that that's okay. Go ahead and stick it back in. And then you just re-lube your velocity adjustment screw. Now obviously when you do this, you're going to have to take the gun back over to the chronograph and re-chronograph your marker. There we go. Give that a couple turns in so we can get the One thing I really like about the hater sauce, especially the marmalade, is when it's on when you actually have it on the O-rings, it's a real clean lubricant to use. So if you have any nicked O-rings or anything, it's not being obscured by like a, like an orange or a green looking lubricant, or kind of a flesh colored lubricant like the Dow 33 or whatever. When it's on the O-rings, it's actually very clear, which is really nice. So let's take out the ram cap, pop out the bolt. Now something about the bolt, you'll notice that the bolt looks a lot like an Ego Cure bolt. Very, very similar to like an Ego Cure bolt. Also the MacDev Cyborg uses a cupped face bolt like this. Very similar in design. Let's drop out the ram. There it is. And that's the ram. So what we're just going to do is let's go ahead and wipe it down. Put a little extra lube on here. This is probably the part that you're going to have to maintain the most, is going to be the ram. Definitely recommend at least every 3 to 5 cases popping this out, wiping it down, putting a nice fresh coat of lubricant on it, and sliding it back into the gun. And let's go ahead and push the ram back into the gun. That's the thing about poppets, man. There's nothing to these guns at all. Very, very easy guns to take apart. Now inside here in the eye covers, the Creed uses a basic spring-loaded Delrin detent design. Okay, you'll see the springs there. The eyes are very similar to what you would see on an Ego. Let's go ahead and pop out this Delrin detent. Oh, there we go. Out goes the Delrin detent. So, nothing too crazy here. Nice little Delrin detents. These always, these tend to last for a really long time, which is nice. I'll push that back down into place. Line up the spring. They did a good job on these eye covers being flush with the body. Tighten it down. And there we go. So, we just basically completely took apart and serviced the Vanguard Creed. Now what we're going to do is we're going to screw the barrel back on, and we're going to weigh it. So let's go ahead and turn the gun on. So as you can see, there's a battery in there. Okay, let's spin this around so the camera can see it. Make sure we are zeroed out. Drop it on there. And that's an extremely lightweight gun. 1 pound, I believe that's 13.8 ounces. 1 pound, 13.8 ounces. So that's a little over 2 ounces lighter than even the Ego 9. Very, very lightweight gun, and definitely I believe the weight difference has to do with the lithium battery. So let's go ahead and take it out and do an efficiency test and come back in for the conclusion. Hey, it's Michael Tech BB, and we're about to do the efficiency test on the Vanguard Creed. And we're going to be also testing out the Versa shell with the Invert 2 internals. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the camera off the tripod, and I'm going to show you the tank temperature and also the pressure in the tank. So let's take a look here. We should be sitting right at about just under 4,500 psi. It's kind of a hot day. Let's take a look at our tank. And our tank is sitting right at about 105 degrees. So now what we'll do is we'll set the camera up and turn on the chronograph, and we're going to load up our first pod. We loaded up our first pod, and we'll turn the gun on and shoot a couple over the chrono. Okay, so we're sitting, let's go up just a little higher. There we go. Let's see, we'll go up a little bit higher. It's really hot out here, so we chronoed this before, but with how hot it is, it's kind of changing a little bit. So let's see how we're shooting now. There we go. So we're sitting right at about 292. So we'll go ahead and set the camera back up on the tripod. And once we have it set up here on the tripod, we can start shooting. Go ahead. Now what we'll do is we'll just empty out the hopper here. We'll just see how many balls we have left. Oops. grip on it. There we go. Now those last couple shots, as long as he was single shooting them, they were coming out pretty fast. Yeah. But once he started ramping, then it started choking off. So looks like we have about what, 20% of a pod. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, probably a little over 8.5 pods. Yeah.
You can almost say 9.
Okay.
You could have one ball
between 8.5 to 9 pods. Where are we at? About 4,500 psi?
About 44.
Yeah, 4,400 psi, shooting about 300 feet per second. About, what do we get, 9 pods? About 8.5, 9 pods. Okay, so as you saw, average efficiency. Gun definitely shoots really good, okay? Now, there are some things that I would like to see done with this gun. Now, the gun right now, the Vanguard Creed right now are selling for about $1,300. Do I personally think the gun's worth $1,300? Not really. Unfortunately, you're up there competing with Dye, and you're also up there competing with Planet Eclipse. And the finish on the Creed, unfortunately, is just not up to Dye or Planet Eclipse level. When you start encroaching, above $1,000, there's a lot of expectations. Packaging, they've got that, but unfortunately, I think the finish of the gun, in terms of how the anodizing is, in terms of how the the overall finishes of the gun, got a little ways to go if they're going to try to hit that $1,300 price point. Something that is also very important, especially if they're going to be selling this gun here in the U.S., is they need to have a repair facility here in the United States. Okay, I know that with Key taking it over, I'm sure Paintball Solutions is going to be taking care of some of the repairs. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work. I know right now, as far as I can tell, you still have to ship these guns over to Europe in order to have them repaired. Okay, that's really expensive, and I think if you're going to be selling a $1,300 gun here in the U.S., definitely need to have a repair facility here. It could be one of the dealers that has, just some extra parts there or something like that, but they definitely need a repair facility here in the U.S. Also, with the rechargeable battery. Now, from somebody who's had his ass handed to him with these rechargeable batteries inside of the paintball guns, I've had very bad experiences with rechargeable batteries in paintball guns. At this price point, if they're going to have a rechargeable battery, and I agree with that. I think we should be going as a sport towards rechargeable batteries. It's more, environmentally friendly. These batteries last a lot longer, but they need to include an extra battery in the box because you can't find this battery anywhere. Nobody sells it. You can't go to Batteries Plus and get this battery. You definitely can't go, to Circuit City and get this battery or Radio Shack to get this battery. So if they're going to have a battery, that's going to be proprietary to the gun, definitely need to include an extra one in the box, especially if they don't have a repair facility here in the U.S. You fry this battery or something happens to it or it's not taking a charge for whatever reason, you need to be able to have a backup battery, especially at a gun at this price point. Something, on a positive note, the gun definitely shoots really good when it shoots good, okay? It's got a completely different sound signature than just about any poppet I've ever shot. Most poppets have just like a pop, pop, pop when they shoot. This one kind of, when you shoot it, almost sounds like it spits. It's like a th. So it's definitely got a really neat sound signature when you shoot it. It's definitely got kind of like that spitting, like that th sound to it. It's definitely completely different than any other gun out there. It doesn't shoot like a spool, and it doesn't shoot like a poppet. It's somewhere in the middle, and it definitely has to do with how they designed the valve. So I think it's a good effort. I think that the gun still has a long ways to go, and I'm sure that as these third generation and the fourth generation come out, the guns are going to get better and better and better. It's definitely a really good effort. $1,300, I think it's a little overpriced. $1,000, maybe $950, I think it's very well priced in there. I think it should be priced somewhere along the lines of like the Cyborg RX, but unfortunately I think $1,300 is just a little bit too much for this gun. And I'm pretty sure that as Key takes over the distribution and the marketing with it, you're going to see the price drop to a little bit more of a realistic level. So, that's about it for the Vanguard Creed. It's a pleasure to shoot. Willie really enjoyed his. I like the direction that they're going with the packaging and everything. I just think they still need to make a couple more steps to go in order to get themselves at the same level as Planet Eclipse and Dye and some of the other companies that are offering these $1,200 to $1,300 markers.